Welcome to the Vibes Lab, your front row seat to the science behind VIA, the Vibes AI agentic platform making everyday brain health accessible to all. Every episode is designed to reveal insights that will enhance your cognitive health and well-being. Follow us to grab your lab key and experience limitless intelligence.
Okay, let's just be real for a second. In this crazy, fast world we live in, feeling anxious. It's pretty common, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I guess most people listening have probably felt that weight themselves at some point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So that's why today we're doing a deep dive into something really interesting. Sound therapy.
Yeah, exploring how sound, just simple sound, can potentially be a tool for calm.
Exactly, for finding balance, maybe helping with emotional well-being. We've looked at some compelling sources on this.
Right, text-based stuff, but rooted in research, looking at the science and the actual benefits.
And our goal here, our kind of mission for this deep dive,
Is basically to pull out the key insights. How does sound therapy actually work to reduce anxiety?
we want listeners to get a clear picture, understand the mechanics and the evidence behind it.
Precisely, so you walk away knowing what it's about.
Okay, so right off the bat, the big idea seems to be that specific sounds can genuinely affect our stress response, like physiologically.
Yes, it's not just a mood thing. Research shows these sound interventions significantly impact both psychological and physiological stress markers.
So how does that happen? What's the mechanism?
Well, one of the main ways is by activating the parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay, the parasympathetic.
Yeah,
That's the opposite of fight or flight, right? The rest and digest mode.
you got it. Think of it like flipping a switch. Soothing sounds, certain kinds of music, they can actually nudge your body out of that high alert state.
And into relaxation and recovery mode?
Exactly. And when that happens, you see real, measurable changes.
Like what?
Lower heart rate, for one.
Yeah.
Blood pressure can decrease. And crucially, levels of stress hormones like cortisol tend to drop.
Cortisol, yeah, the big one.
Several sources really highlighted that connection clearly.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just feeling calmer, your body is actually calming down. That's pretty powerful.
It is. And there's more. There's also this incredibly direct link between the ear and the brain.
A direct link. How so?
Sound isn't just processed as, noise or music. It directly influences neural pathways.
The ones that control.
Things like our sense of safety, our emotional reactions, the overall balance of our nervous system. It's like a fast track to the parts of the brain managing those feelings.
It's a fast track. Interesting. And the sources mentioned different kinds of sounds being used, not just any music.
That's a really important point,
Yeah.
yes. Research looks at both calming music and something specific called auditory beat stimulation, or ABS.
ABS. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so one promising type is ABS in the theta potentially, especially for certain people.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical. What are the actual results? What benefits are people seeing?
Well, the evidence points to some really significant benefits. There was one large controlled study, for instance.
Yeah.
It found that people with moderate anxiety showed the biggest drop in both physical and mental symptoms when they used that combination, the calming music plus the ABS.
The biggest drop of the combo. Okay.
But importantly, even people who started with higher anxiety levels still saw meaningful improvements.
That's really encouraging. It means it might help a wide range of people.
It suggests broad potential, yes.
Yeah.
It's not just for mild stress.
So it's more than just feeling relaxed for a few minutes. It can make a real dent in significant anxiety.
That's what the findings suggest.
Mhm.
And beyond just lowering the anxiety score, so to speak, we also see reports about deep relaxation and, interestingly, emotional release.
Emotional release, how does that work?
This often comes up with vibrational instruments like Tibetan singing bowls are a common example.
Yeah. Ah, I've heard of those, the sound and the vibration.
Exactly. That combination seems to induce a really deep relaxation state, easing physical tension,
Yeah.
but also, for some people, helping to kind of loosen up and release pent-up emotions or stress.
So it's not just calming the surface, it might be getting at some deeper stuff.
That's the idea, helping to quiet that racing mind,
Mm-hmm.
and build a bit more emotional balance and resilience over time.
Okay, that makes sense. What else? Any other major benefits?
Sleep.
Hmm.
Definitely improved sleep quality comes up a lot.
Oh, huge. The anxiety-sleep connection is brutal for so many people.
It really is. They feed each other, right? Poor sleep makes anxiety worse. Anxiety ruins sleep. It's a vicious cycle.
Totally.
So the calming effect of sound therapy can make it easier to actually fall asleep and maybe get deeper, more restorative rest.
Is there data on that?
Some surveys mentioned in the sources indicated that up to 80% of people using sound therapy reported sleeping better.
80%. Wow, that's a massive number.
Significant, yeah. It really highlights how tackling the anxiety can directly impact sleep, breaking that cycle.
Yeah, better sleep then probably helps manage the anxiety during the day too.
Exactly. It works both ways. And there's another aspect too, mindfulness.
Mindfulness. How does sound therapy tie into that?
Well, think about the nature of some of this restorative audio. It's often gentle, maybe repetitive.
Okay.
That quality can act like an anchor for your attention. It gently pulls your focus away from those anxious, looping thoughts.
And brings you into the present moment.
Right. It helps you land in the here and now, just noticing the sound.
So it's kind of like a mindfulness exercise, but using sound as the focus.
You could definitely think of it that way. It's a way to practice presence.
And I guess doing that regularly could have longer-term benefits.
That's the idea. Building self-awareness, maybe improving how you regulate emotions over time.
And you mentioned earlier, these aren't just feelings, they're actual physical changes.
Absolutely. It's
Right.
worth circling back to that. These are measurable physiological shifts.
Tangible proof.
Yes. Things like lowered heart rate, lower blood pressure, breathing becoming slower and more regular, reduced levels of those stress hormones we talked about.
Like cortisol again.
Exactly. These are all objective signs that the body is moving out of stress mode and into a state of calm and well-being.
It's quite compelling when you see the measurable data alongside the reported feelings.
It really ties it all together.
Okay, so for listeners thinking, this sounds interesting, how could I actually try something like this? The sources mentioned a specific example, right? Latest vibe drop anxiety relief.
Yes, that was presented as a practical application. A piece of audio designed specifically using these principles to help with anxiety.
We don't have the audio itself, obviously, but it's an example of how this science is being used.
Correct. It's applying the concepts we've been discussing in a ready-to-use format.
And they were also asking people to participate in research around it.
That's right. Encouraging listeners to fill out a survey before and after listening.
To gather more data.
Exactly. Shows this is still an active area of research, trying to refine understanding and effectiveness,
Yeah.
which is good to see.
Definitely. Now, there was also a really important caution included.
Yes. The disclaimer, crucial point.
Before anyone just jumps into using sound therapy, especially if they're dealing with significant anxiety.
Absolutely vital. Talk to a healthcare professional first. A doctor, a therapist, someone qualified.
Right. This isn't necessarily a replacement for other treatments.
No, it can be a complementary tool, but you need personalized advice. They can help figure out if it's appropriate for your specific situation and needs. Always consult first.
Good. Very important reminder. Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive today, it seems pretty clear that sound therapy isn't just, nice background noise. It taps into our physiology, our nervous system.
Right, working through those pathways to genuinely reduce anxiety.
Offering real benefits like, well, less anxiety, obviously, but also deeper relaxation, potentially better sleep.
Enhanced mindfulness, being more present.
And those measurable physical changes, lower heart rate, blood pressure, all that.
It really underscores that powerful connection between sound and our overall state of well-being.
It really does.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening, given this deep connection we've talked about.
Yeah.
How might consciously, intentionally bringing certain kinds of sound into your own daily routine, how might that shift your experience with stress or anxiety?
That's a great question to ponder.
Just exploring that relationship between sound and how you feel,
Yeah.
maybe that's a worthwhile next step.
Something to think about. Definitely food for thought.